What happened in France? Basically, the French were there. I was building some cars and some other stuff. I had a factory and some farms and a couple mines. And what happened was I had built the whole town basically. Everything went well, basically, pretty much. We were building the houses. Everything was good. I was paying everyone. And there's lots of money around. And the franc was really good. Or, I mean, the French money was really good. And if I remember right, what happened was some Filipinos went in there, and there was a lot of them. There was like 3,000 Filipinos and like 1,000 French people or something like that, or like there was like proportionally more Filipinos than French people. They were doing labor work and stuff. And what happened was the Filipinos, I believe, decided to make a run on the city, pretty much, or they killed a whole bunch of French people, I think, if I remember right. And I mean, it's France, so there's an indigenous French people, French group there, and basically the Filipinos came, I think maybe from Cuba or someplace. They wanted anyway. They just moved into the town. They were working for the French, and and I kind of named groups that would work together, like the Filipinos and French or French people, as because there's usually like a bigger group and a smaller group or something like that, and then Germans somewhere in the mix. And what happened was the Filipinos, which worked the farms and stuff, kind of like Mexicans work the farms in America. And what happened is, and Filipinos and Mexicans are basically pretty much almost the same, only with a little bit different bloodline. Um, and what happened was the Filipinos decided to the French owed me a lot of money, a lot of money, like the cars, the everything, and so the Filipinos decided that they wanted to call in all those loans and basically take over that town and live in the nice big houses. Like, why should you have all that money and all those nice things? Blah 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 blah. And 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 so they did like a revolt or a takeover, and like Filipinos don't really have a country, or they should go make themselves a country. Not just snuggle up next to another group. It's kind of like Mexico taking over America. It's like, dude, you have a country. It's called Mexico. I mean, if you're a Mexican in the United States trying to take over America, which is my country, um, or trying to take it away from Americans, basically, then there's just something wrong with that. You can't just get a gun and go out and shoot people. Anyway, some group of Filipinos, basically, it wasn't the French. It was because I had a French army. Um, they wore little red hats and stuff like that, and the Filipinos or someone decided to try and take over this one town or take over this one place, and that's why it gets kind of confusing because they call like Hitler's group because Hitler had somebody or some little army himself, and I had the whole basically, um, and so like the glider thing that was actually like I think that was a test actually. They didn't really take over the place. They just went and landed. I forget exactly what happened with that. But there's a lot of stuff that's missing from the narration, like the fact that there's a pipeline that went underneath the river, and actually up the side, the exit tunnel. I don't forget if that was actually an active water line at the time or not, but I think there might have been a water system there or something, and that's why it was protected because it's a water system. You could poison it, and if you drop poison in there, you'd be poisoning the whole town. And it might have been a water treatment center. I'm not exactly sure. You'd like be poisoning like half of France. I mostly just hardened areas where you could walk in and basically poison the whole town without anybody knowing. Pretty much, I put stuff there, guards and stuff at all the different water treatment plants and stuff like that. I was really fussy about that. So because you could just dump a whole bunch of poison inside that water treatment center, and then the whole town dies, and then you just move in. So anyway, And I think that might have been an issue, like somebody had taken it over and they were threatening to poison the whole town or poison the whole water system or something. I don't really know, but there was a lot of gold at that one fort. Anyway, the Filipinos tried to take over the town, killed a bunch of people, and I wouldn't even call it really the whole Filipino group, because that's kind of like, you know, There's a lot of Filipinos, and that was just like a couple hundred people, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they tried to call in the loans legally. They try to do all this bad French stuff. They go into the courts and they try and do all this bad. They try and make this stuff legal, and it's like, no, you can't just do that. You can't just kill people and just lock up people and just say, well, they owe money, therefore, because realistically they owed money to me. You know, not the Filipinos. You know, because they had gotten paid. You know, and for their labor, and they just wanted to like take over the buildings. It's like, no, you can't do that. Anyway, so I called in an army to go and and they resisted, and they went and went up and fought my army, or fought, and there was some fighting actually between like the French army and another army in France. There's these other two groups or whatever, and I was kind of like outside of it, and I was like, that's enough. And basically I called in my army and basically pretty much put the other two armies at peace. I think it was the French army, and the French army were on my side, or I had a paid army. And then there was another army. I forget the details of it. And then, so anyway, so I solved it basically by paying them more. I think I might have even taken over the Germany's army, or the Hitler's army, or something like that. Like their army was attacking, I was like, I pay more. So took them over and ended the conflict. And I was like, all right, that's enough. And I found out, you know, what the deal was. Anyway, and anyway, it gets complicated, because like what they say happened and what really happened are a little bit different. You know, I lived it and got through it, and basically, you know, I mean, it's a little bit more, I mean, for me, it was a little more hectic, because it's like, oh, you know, this and that, and you have to go by what people say a little bit, and just dealing with it. Anyway, it gets complicated and confusing, so anyway, but there's a lot of gold in that one place, and it was a water treatment plant too, I think, if I'm right. And the bunkers we blew up was just one or two, and we didn't really need them anyway. I just blew up one. I left the other ones actually for historically purposes. And I think people were just going and living in them or something like that. I forget. Most of the stuff that got blown up, they say war. It's like, no, people were living in it. It was a hazard, so we just blew it up. You know, kind of done with it. And that explosive wasn't even around then. But they kind of put it in there. It's kind of cool to kind of like group it up so people can kind of understand what was going on, but they're not really presenting it in the right way, and that's not really exactly what happened. It would be better if they just showed the pictures and everything, and you could actually see what actually happened, what transpired over, like, because it was like a 50-year war, whatever, with like smaller fightings, and basically it was pretty much Africa and a couple other people that we find out was pretty much the problem. And mostly, like I say, they were going and killing towns or stealing stuff and then running away and just doing like these spot hittings. And then after they got discovered and found out, then they hit the whole towns and like killed lots of people. And they didn't really kill that many people because we spotted them, I think. And then there was the King of Men in England. He went in and basically was trying to get some aircraft, and like took this one guy hostage, and took him to the aircraft factory, and put his people in their aircraft. Not that they could even get them off the ground practically, and then killed him and left the two girls alive, I think, and then after raping them, and then took off and bombed the factory or something, or we bombed the factory. I forget exactly. I forget because, you know, they took it over. They said it was Adolf Hitler, but it was Black Adolf Hitler. It wasn't really Adolf Hitler. It was just some guy calling himself Adolf Hitler. He was black. So anyway, whatever.